I rent my basement suite to Sally, the daughter of my mom's best friend. I knew her growing up, and I used to babysit her. The basement has two means of escape, other than entering my area. It is fully up to code as an in-law suite, so there's no reason for anyone to go through it into my space. I went on vacation and left my door to the basement deadbolt. 3 days into my vacation, I got an alert on my phone that there was an unauthorized event at my house. I looked at the video. It's my mom opening the door for Sally's mom. They freak out when the alarm goes off. Usually, if I need my mom to get into my apartment, I will give her a temporary code. It's always the same one because she gets confused by tech, but I have to activate it beforehand. I can't do it retroactively. The only choice would be to call her and give her my personal code. I checked the cameras in the house, and strangely enough, my house was not on fire. I didn't leave the faucet running. There's no emergency. This is where I might be the idiot. Once I saw they were just screwing around with my area for no good reason, I put my phone on airplane mode and went back to the party. 90 minutes later, a concierge at the resort came and said I was urgently needed on the phone. My dad wrote down my whereabouts, and they called the front desk to get a hold of me. I excused myself and went for the call. I asked my mom what the emergency was, why she was getting me out of my friend's wedding reception, and if my house and dad were okay. She brusquely told me to shut up and talk to the cops in the security patrol. I talked to them and apologized for wasting their time. I asked them what emergency brought my mother into my house. They handed her back the phone and let her tell me that her friends didn't want to sit in the basement while she was visiting her daughter. So my mom agreed to let them use my area, which would be a secret. I asked the security company to please lock my house and take my key back from my mother. She started to protest, but I hung up. I enjoyed the rest of my trip, and my dad has agreed to pay any fines or penalties for the false alarms. Sally's mom wanted to move out, and that's fine by me. I didn't need a tenant, and only did it as a favor. Sally is almost apologetic, begging me not to kick her out. She said she didn't even know what our moms were up to until the alarm went off. My mom is angry that I wasn't available immediately to get them out of trouble and furious that I won't give her my key back. She thinks I did it on purpose, but I'm unsure how she thinks I forced her to enter my home without permission. So, am I the idiot for making them sweat and deal with the cops for a couple of hours until they got a hold of me and took my key back? Since I can't trust her now, not the idiot. Your mom and your mom's BFF chose to ignore your boundaries. Mom used a key meant only for emergencies to break into your property when there was no emergency, just entitlement. These are the consequences of her actions. I don't blame you for putting your phone in airplane mode at an important event. Not your mess, not your problem. I wouldn't kick Sally out if she doesn't want to go. She's an adult and can make her own choices. Just remind her that if she has visitors, she needs to remind them to stay on her side of the property line. Also, give the key to your dad instead. He seems far more responsible and reasonable than your mom. Aha, haha, mom messed around and found out, and now she's pouting about it. She had zero business breaking into your home because she and her friend wanted somewhere else to sit. No more key for her. Nice shiny steel spine you've got there. My compliments. My son is 15 months, just over a year, and is still nursing. I don't see the point in giving him cow's milk and freezing pumped milk, so I just put my breast milk over his cereal or in recipes I'm going to make him. He does have cow's milk, just not regularly. My in-laws are currently staying with us. This morning, I put my son in his high chair, fed him his cereal, and left him to his own devices. My father-in-law was in the kitchen, so I left to wake up my oldest. Anyway, I bring her down and find my father-in-law finishing my son's cereal. I laughed a little but went along with my morning. When we all sat down to eat, my father-in-law commented that the milk in my son's cereal tasted weird and asked if it was off. I then told him that he had breast milk in his, and our milk wasn't off. I swear he looked like he was going to kill over and vomit. He was angry and asked why I watched him drink it and not tell him. My mother-in-law stepped in and agreed. I know we finished everyone's meals, and I should have told him beforehand. I agreed that I should have told him when he was eating it, but honestly, I thought he saw me tip it in from the bottle. My husband is on damage control and has agreed with all of us. He understands all points of view, etc. So, am I the idiot for not telling him that I make his cereal with breast milk? Let the man know, especially if you knew he would probably finish the food, then giggle and not tell him. Are you serious? I'm not buying your they saw excuse. Nah, I feel you knew what you were doing all along. Yeah, you were the idiot. You didn't have any obligation to warn him in advance or anything. Still, you should have said something immediately when you saw him eating it at that point. Why bother? He was already eating it. He already thinks it tastes weird and is spoiled, but he finished it anyway. If he's okay with spoiled and possibly dangerous milk, but not yucky because it came out of your boob milk, that's a him problem, not the idiot. It's wild that he took a baby cereal and started eating it. Yeah, if it tasted off, why was he still consuming it? The dude is weird for that. Plus, yuck. That toddler could have sneezed in it and drooled. Heck, if the kid had his finger down his nappy prior, guess what germs are in that cereal? Who even walks around someone's house just finishing other people's meals like it's a baby? Get your own cereal, lol. Also, a little breast milk isn't going to hurt him. It's fine. You're simply living your life, taking care of your kids as you always do. It's not your responsibility to police a grown darn man if he's going to go around acting like the family's personal garbage disposal. Let him take the risk of ingesting something he's unaware of in the food. This is all on him. I 19 female have been babysitting occasionally for a few families for the past 2 years. A week ago, a new family got my number from one of the families I babysit for a lot. I told them up front that I have this rule where I only babysit boys who are 10 and under, but when it comes to girls, the age isn't an issue for me. They told me they had 2 boys just under 10, so I agreed. They told me that they had very important plans the day I was to babysit, and I assured them that I was very professional and would be there on time and all that. The day came, and I went to their house. The dad greeted me and took me to their living room to meet the boys. To my surprise, one boy looked like an older tween, and the other looked like he could be young to mid-teen or even 16. Both were taller than me, and the older one even had some visible facial hair. All that was going through my head was, these parents lied to me about the ages, because I led with my rule about the ages, and they lied to me just so I would accept. When the mother came down and greeted me, I asked to speak to her in another room. I told her that I could not babysit, and I was also truthful about the reason. She was livid. We got into a back and forth where I basically said that I felt they lied about the ages, and she even said, "Oh, so you want me to show you their birth certificates to believe me?" At this point, I was kind of mad because she was immediately livid, and I also felt like I was fooled. Anyway, I said, yeah, some proof would help. She stomped off to the living room, and I could hear her tell her husband to get this witch out of my house. I'll stay with the boys. I walked out of the kitchen towards the front door and announced, I'm leaving, before I stepped out. Later that night, the mom of the family member who recommended me called and was also pretty angry. I explained that these boys looked so much older than they were said to be, and there was no way they weren't lying. She said, maybe one is actually a year older, but the other is truly a pre-tween, and they just look like they were so much older. To be fair, the mother was tall, and the dad was huge. It's actually the reason I asked to confront the mother and not the father. But the boys weren't just tall. They also looked older face-wise. I was also babysitting 2 strange boys who were taller, clearly so much stronger than me, which didn't feel safe. That's why I have the age rule in the first place. There was no way that their mother didn't realize her boys looked so much older than boys their age. I feel like it was something she should have mentioned after telling her my rule about the ages. I felt like I was justified, but I also feel bad that I ruined their plans. Everyone involved is angry with me, and I wonder if I was overreacting and should have just babysat since I agreed. Right now, I don't know what to think. Was I the idiot here, not the idiot? It sucks for the mom that her young kids are so big, but she's going to have to spring for a large adult male babysitter. That's not easy to come by. She might not be able to go out until the boys are old enough to stay home alone, or she should trade nights with other boy moms. But this is not your problem. It was ridiculous of her to expect a teenage girl to be able to deal with boys who are bigger than her. Also, she was totally out of line cursing you out like that. If that's the level of emotional regulation you get from the parent, I shudder to think what she'll get from her kids. I stayed home alone at 11, and I haven't looked after my grandma at that age. At 12, I babysat myself. I feel like I'm in a different timeline. If he's old enough to have facial hair, he seems old enough to stay home for a day without his parents. We were always told to go to the house next door if an emergency needed an adult, or to call 911 depending on the issue. Yeah, why would parents hire a babysitter for teenagers who don't need to do that? I once babysit a toddler who was left in my care, and I later found out that their sibling, maybe 13 or 14 years old, was home the whole time. Their parents had simply had them hide in the bedroom and play computer games so that they wouldn't have to pay me for 2 kids. They reasoned that the teenager didn't need a babysitter, but they just weren't responsible enough to care for the toddler. OP, I'm so impressed that you stood up for yourself like that. Your gut is usually right, and you're wise enough to trust. I'm a 38-year-old male, and my wife, who is 37, got into a little argument with me last week. She's going on a 3-week trip to the U.S. for some research studies at a prestigious school, which is unpaid and outside her work scope. I pushed her to take this opportunity, and I volunteered to take care of our 2 boys back home. Just for the record, as I started seeing that people believe men don't take care of kids where we live, I took more paternity leave and did most of the activities with them, as I enjoy it. So, this is not me being scared of being with my boys after 3 weeks. I expected my wife to fly back directly to us. However, she asked me if she could fly to New York and visit the city for 3 days. She said it was her childhood dream and doesn't know if the opportunity will present itself again. I have told her that this is also a dream of mine, and I would like to experience it with her, but now I won't. Well, as she was talking about it, I felt disappointed and sad that she wouldn't want to return to her family ASAP. I told her I was afraid I had to disagree, and that I didn't want her to fly to New York, but instead, fly back to us. She refused and said that she'd book the tickets anyway. We're used to traveling often for work, 2 to 3 days, she explained, and we always take 1 extra day to visit. However, she continued, this time, 3 weeks is not 2 to 3 days. In some ways, I feel angry at myself for thinking that my wife is selfish, but at the same time, I believe I should not interfere with her dream. However, I cannot stop thinking that I would have not behaved this way, especially after 3 weeks. I've now asked her to unbook her tickets, or else I will book a 3-week trip abroad by myself when she returns. Am I the idiot? I wondered. You are the idiot, she replied. It's 3 days. She'll already be in the States. She's going for professional development, and I stated that I'm taking care of our sons instead of traveling. But she isn't traveling for 3 weeks. She's working. You can be gracious and give her what's basically a long weekend after what is most likely an intense period. You aren't begrudging her for 3 days because you predict you'll miss her. You're doing so out of pettiness and jealousy. Be a supportive husband and book your own trip if you want when she gets back, but you only get a 3-day trip. I just agree, OP is not the idiot. I'm fairly sure people haven't actually read this properly. Her 3-week trip isn't work-rated. It's unpaid and outside the scope of her area of academic study. It's something she's interested in, but it doesn't relate specifically to her career. Despite this, you've encouraged her to go, taking on full responsibility for the kids over 3 weeks. That's a big, supportive undertaking. Rather than accept this and be grateful your partner's trying to extend it, she's ignored your worries and concerns, making it worse. It's cutting you out of a dream that you also had. You have every right to feel aggrieved. Your suggestion that you take similar time for yourself is reasonable. Please disregard the blatant mandates here. You're in the right and have behaved appropriately. I'm in a bit of a moral and emotional quandary and could really use some outside perspectives. Here's the situation. I'm a 25-year-old male with a stable life and a decent income. I've been dating a woman, 28, for almost a year now. We've had talks about marriage, living together, and eventually having kids. Recently, she got pregnant. I was upfront about being ready and willing to embrace fatherhood and reassured her that I'd support whatever decision she made, emphasizing her happiness and autonomy despite my desire for the baby. I didn't want to pressure her and believed in supporting her choice. I created a financial plan and put everything together, showcasing that we'd be living very comfortably. I make 5 times her salary and work remotely, so I could also help around the house a lot. I said I was ready to have the baby, would like to have it, and that we should get married ASAP. We talked in detail about the scenario. However, her first reaction to the test results was that she has a high desire to have a termination. After a few days, she decided that she wasn't ready to give up her current lifestyle for motherhood yet. We agreed, But while I've maintained a supportive front, internally, I'm devastated. I haven't shared the extent of my grief with her, as I don't want to influence her post-decision or add to the emotional burden. I'm conflicted. Despite my initial support, I'm considering breaking up post-procedure. The realization that our values might significantly diverge, especially on something as fundamental as starting a family, has me questioning our compatibility. While she's lived a vibrant life full of experiences, I feel like we're at a point where settling down shouldn't be off the table. Her decision, while I respect it, makes me feel that we're not as aligned as I thought. I plan to ensure she's okay, both physically and emotionally, in the immediate aftermath. But I think it might be best to part ways after, not because of the decision itself, but because it highlighted a profound difference in where we see our lives going. It's not about resentment. It's about recognizing we may not be the soulmates I thought we were. But to be honest, I think I could never get rid of the thought that she got rid of our baby. Would I be the idiot for ending things after ensuring she's recovered, given that this situation has revealed a significant gap in our life paths and values? There have also been other moments. For example, we had PL move in together after 1 year. When the time came, she said she wanted to wait more. We had planned to make a small, fun couples tattoo, but when the time came, she said she wanted to do it later. I feel ready to move to another chapter of my life, and I feel like her decision will make me stop loving her. I fully support and understand her, but I just can't help but feel this way, even though she's perfect in every other way. Dude, you're dating for almost a year. In my opinion, you're going way too fast. You should start by seeing if you're still a good match after 2 years of living together. Do not rush into parenthood. After that, thinking about kids is reasonable, in my opinion. The tattoo is way too fast, in my opinion, too. So, I get that one. Otherwise, she might want to take it slower than you, and that's reasonable. Parenthood aside, he rushed right into let's get married now. I don't know about anyone else, but the thought of him marrying me only because we got pregnant just doesn't sit well with me. She's actually making a very rational decision to slow him down, but if he's looking to rush into things, he can mess around and find out with someone who also likes to rush into big commitments without fully knowing the person they're involved with. OP is definitely immature and not ready for parenthood. I could also help out around the house, help that us performing your parental responsibilities, help you don't help around your own dang house, you know? He's the kind of guy that would call it babysitting when he's caring for his own kid. You are the idiot. Stop rushing her. She seems sensible, as you two haven't been dating that long. I think you should break up with her because it seems you desire a relationship, not necessarily her.